After some deep conversation, it has been decided that The Mummy will represent bisexuality in my movie reviews for Pride Month. Why? Because it is almost unanimous that The Mummy was everybody's bisexual awakening. Which is really crazy because there are, in fact, besides like the extras in the background, only 2 women in this whole movie. Like, don't get it twisted, for this movie, I'm not complaining about anything on that regards. I just found it interesting that this was, in fact, was an entire bisexual awakening, and there was, in fact, only 2 women. But occasionally, it has to happen. So let's get into it. So this is the 1999 film The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. Once upon a time, in ancient Thebes, a hot-ass bald priest was having an affair with the pharaoh's mistress. And the pharaoh found out. And so the mistress killed herself, and then the hot bald priest took her body to the city of the dead, where he had this book called the Book of the Dead, and he was doing like this ritual to bring her back from the dead. Except the pharaoh's guards tracked them down before he was able to complete the ritual, and then they mummified him alive, which is like one of the worst punishments you can have, because they like cut out your tongue, and then they wrap you, then they put you in the sarcophagus, and they put the flesh-eating scarabs in the sarcophagus to eat you while they bury you. It's so bad it's basically a curse. And he was like locked into the sarcophagus with this cool little box that turns into a key. 3,000 years later, this incredibly sexy librarian is given this little puzzle box by her like niche kind of good looking brother. Like, if you find Tom Hiddleston and maybe Benedict Cumberbatch hot, you would find him hot. Not really on my scale, but I could see where it would be for other people. Anyways, he comes to Cairo where she's working, gives her the little puzzle box, and then she opens the little puzzle box, and ba-blam, there's a map to the city of the dead, which everybody thought was a legend. Well, they managed to track down the guy that originally had the puzzle box, and it's his map. And that's Brendan Fraser, who's currently in prison and going to be hanged. They bargain his freedom for 25% of the gold they find. And so they get on their boat and start making their quest, but it comes to find out that Brendan Fraser's partner guy, Benny, decided he was also going to do that for money, so he's bringing a bunch of American cowboys to the City of the Dead so that they can find, like, gold and shit. Well, while they're on their way, the Magi, or the Magi, it's a group of guys that are supposed to be protecting the City of the Dead so that nothing can get out. Well, they attack the boat, so that people can't go over there and start fucking around with things. And then the boat catches fire, and everybody, like, has to jump out of the boat and swim for it. Everybody makes their own way to where the City of the Dead would be, and when the sun comes up, it shows it, because you can only be there at sunup for it to expose itself. And then everybody starts, like, excavating and shit, going through things. Some people were hit with, like, this salt acid stuff, like a spray. It was like a booby trap. A guy got his brain eaten by a scarab. If then, like, a mummy sarcophagus falls through the ceiling, and then Rachel Weisz figures out that her little puzzle box will open it. So they're looking at a mummy, because she's really excited. I mean, she's a librarian, and she studies ancient Egypt. She's there for the cool stuff, not really the gold. But then the Magi attack again later that night and tell them, hey, they got a day to get the fuck out of there and stop messing with shit. Well, they don't listen, and then the next day, the cowboy group actually finds the Book of the Dead. And they're trying to get it open, but Rachel Weisz doesn't tell them how to open it because you need the key, but she waits until one of them passes out holding the book, and then she takes it, and then she opens it while nobody's around, and then she reads out loud. Well, Brendan Fraser's there at that point. And it accidentally brings the hot priest mummy guy back to life. And it releases the 10 plagues of Egypt, which, if you don't know them, they're from Moses. There's like locusts and darkness and frogs and a river of blood, things like that. Well, the problem is, like, he's alive again, but he's still mummified, okay? He's still, like, in his decomposition phase, but he has to suck, like, life forces and organs out of people in order to, like, be his hot, sexy, bald self again. So he steals some guy's tongue and his eyes. And then Benny, who's the partner, gets suckered into being his slave, and then he, like, leads him into the city and stuff, where he continues to suck the rest of the life force out of the guy he stole the eyes from, amongst a few other people that stole his little organ jars. And there's some fighting back and forth, especially involving a cat, but then he takes Rachel Weisz, because he's going to take her back to the City of the Dead so that he can bring his girlfriend back to life on Noxuna Moon. And so when she comes to life, she's still going to be all mummified and shit, and she can use the life force from Rachel Weisz because they look exactly alike. But don't worry, because Brendan Fraser and her brother find the other book, which is the Book of Gold, or made of solid gold or whatever, that helps control things and to stop everything, and it gives them like this mummy army to attack on Noxuna Moon and kill her again, and then the hot bald priest dies. And that's kind of a big summary of what happens. But you should watch it anyway. Now, did I like it? Duh. I don't know anybody who doesn't like The Mummy. It's got a cool ass story. It's got the hottest cast you've ever seen in a damn movie. You like history? It's got some kind of history. And a quotable script. And sure, okay, the CGI is a smidge goofy, but it's 1999. Like, what fucking more do you want? In fact, it's a movie so good that it got its own roller coaster at Universal Studios. So yes, I enjoy this immensely. I do have one question though. But I do have a question. So when Imhotep, who's the hot bald guy priest, takes Rachel Weisz and Benny, he turns into like this giant sand tornado and heads back towards the city of the dead, right? What happens to them? Because he himself is the entity of the big sand tornado. Do they turn into like a little floating speck? Are they spinning around in the tornado the whole time? How does that work? 10 out of 10. This was a good choice. 10 out of 10. Okay, bye. Hey, O'Connell! Looks like I have all the horses! Hey, Benny! Looks like you're on the wrong side of the river!